Hi, welcome to the Grit Gym Nutrition course. This is going to be the first installment of 6. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Amber Dunlap. I'm the Grit Gym's operation manager, and I'm also the nutrition coach here. I'm Precision Nutrition certified, and Precision Nutrition is a really awesome program that's half science, half behavioral melded together. And it's also really great because it's not a one-size-fits-all approach. It allows for people's lifestyles, their preferences, all sorts of things. It's not a diet. It's an education that gives me the ability to be able to help people in a way that works for them. So along with my nutrition certification, we take all the information we've learned from coaching tons and tons of people at the gym, mix that with the precision nutrition curriculum. We have explored so much, and we've kept all the good. We've thrown out the stuff that doesn't work, and we've boiled it down to a really clear, condensed, easy to follow program. So my story starts in 2011 when I was diagnosed with Graves' disease. Graves' disease is an autoimmune thyroid disorder. So if you've heard of Hashimoto's, that's hypothyroidism. Graves' disease is hyperthyroidism. So I got pretty sick. I lost a lot of weight. I lost a lot of muscle mass. My blood pressure was through the roof. My resting heart rate was well over 100. I was pretty sick, but I had the realization that if I was going to rely on my doctors to help me get better, I also needed to do everything I could for myself. And nutrition played a huge role in that for me. But my journey taught me a lot about both body image and health. If you had asked me, before I was sick, what I thought health looked like or what I wanted for myself and my body, I would have told you I wanted to be skinny. Well, I can tell you as a person who managed to get down to, I was probably 105 pounds. I was really skinny, but I was dreadfully unhealthy. And in that moment, I can tell you how everybody told me how great I looked all the time, but I was super, super sick. So it's a mind trip, the weight and the health and how they play into each other. Because I would have done anything to weigh 30 more pounds and felt better at the time. But if you'd asked me before that, I just would have thought that being skinny meant being healthy. So it really opened my eyes to what health is and what health looks like, and also about body image and the unrealistic expectations that are put on people in society. So this kind of leads into this next slide of what are you trying to achieve? So your goals are always going to fall somewhere on a spectrum. If you look over at the right, there's a Venn diagram. So the top is health, and then the left is performance, and then the right is physique. So you're always going to fall somewhere on this spectrum. But if you want to be on the far outskirts of the Venn diagram, you're going to be sacrificing something else. So if you want to be like supermodel skinny, you have to understand that you're going to give up some of that health. And if you want to be the best linebacker in the NFL, it might be at the expense of some vanity. And if you want to be as healthy as possible, you may not be able to walk around with a six-pack. But when you reach the outer part of the circles, you're going to be talking about a lifestyle overhaul with major sacrifices you're going to need to commit to. Let me also say that there's no shame in what you want. I'm not saying that if you can want a six-pack, and there's no shame in that, and you can walk around with a six-pack, but you have to understand what goes into it. And that doesn't just mean health. Just because you have a six-pack doesn't mean you're healthy. A lot of times quite the opposite. Those people that you see in a magazine that have a six-pack, they don't walk around with a six-pack most of the time. They carb deplete and they're dehydrated, and they purposely get down to that physique for photo shoots, and then they have Photoshop to help them along. But it's possible, and it's okay. But you have to be realistic about what you're willing to commit to achieve your goals. But marketing and social media have made you believe that you can get all three effortlessly and that they're all the same thing, but it's not your fault you're confused. So at Grit Gym, most people we help fall into this red area, this circle in the middle. We've found that people want to look as good as possible, feel as good as possible, perform as well as possible, without completely changing their life to center around fitness and nutrition. Now, that's not to say we can't help you if the extreme edge of the Venn diagram is something that you're aiming for, but it's going to be a more specialized, tightly controlled program at that point, as opposed to where most of us are really aiming for the center part. So let's talk a little bit about popular nutrition philosophies and diets. You've all heard of this list on the left here: vegetarian, vegan, paleo, keto, low carb. All of these things you've heard of, right? Here's the thing: people are lured into quick results. Anything you do will work for a little while. The problem becomes sustainability. And adherence to a nutrition philosophy is going to be more important than the one you actually choose. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in the next part. All of these popular nutrition philosophies and diets work because of a reduction in calories. That's the premise behind all of them. And I know you're going to say, hey, Amber, I do keto, I don't count calories. But when you take away an entire food group from your diet, you are therefore restricting calories. So all of these are calorie restrictions, just in different ways. But adjusting calories is a very effective way to reach your goals, but there's some big problems with relying on it for long-term results. So calories in versus calories out. The idea is both true and important to understand, but there's a lot of systems at work that make this concept more complex than you realize. So I want to talk a little bit about that right now. So when it comes to calories in, these are the problems that you're going to run into. The first one is food labels are wrong. So food labels can be up to 25% wrong by law. So something that's 100 calories could really be 125, or it could be 75. And as you add that up over a day, a week, a month, that's like a pretty big discrepancy. Another one is how you cook your food changes the caloric value of it. So if you think of like a potato, there's almost no calories in a potato. It's like 20 calories in a potato. But when you boil it or cook it or bake it, it becomes easier for your body to digest, your calories become more bioavailable, and the caloric value actually increases what's going in. So the way you cook your food can change how many calories are actually in your food. The next one is you don't digest all the calories in your food. And then, as with this next one, absorption varies based on things like gut health and genetics. So both the amount you digest and the amount you absorb, a lot of that is greatly variable person to person. Things like how healthy you are, how healthy your parents are, what your predisposition to, there's your body type. There's just a lot of things that are going to play into your absorption that labels on the back can't account for. And the last one, we're terrible at eyeballing portion size. We get out a box of Cheez-Its, you flip it over, and it says 20 Cheez-Its. How many of us count out 20 Cheez-Its? Almost none of us, right? We grab the box, we start eating, we guess, like, oh, it's probably about 20, and we put it away. Well, the fact is, when we guess at our portion sizes, we're usually really terrible. We almost always overeat. In the case, coincidentally, the people who are looking at fat loss as a primary goal tend to just naturally overeat, and the people who are looking for weight gain as a primary goal tend to be undereaters by nature. Is kind of off topic, but it's totally true. But we're bad at eyeballing portion size. So when it comes to calories out, there's a few variables as well. So estimating caloric burn is wildly inaccurate. You wear a Fitbit, you run on the treadmill, you look up something online, there's something that says like, oh, if you swim for 30 minutes, you're going to burn X amount of calories, or I ran 2 miles and burned 150 calories. Like, these are all just ballpark guesses. They're not hard science. Your body size, your weight, your lean muscle mass, there's a lot of things that are going to go into how much you personally burn. So we're talking extreme estimates here. So adaptive thermogenesis from previous dieting, this is something that I said I was going to get to here. So when I say that adherence to a philosophy is more important than the philosophy itself, this is why. Adaptive thermogenesis happens when you go, let's say you go on Jenny Craig and you eat a 1,200 calorie diet for 3 months and you lose a bunch of weight. Your body's smart. Your body is going to learn to live on 1,200 calories. So what happens when you eat 3,000 calories for the next, when you get off the wagon? Your body has adjusted down to 1,200 calories for what it needs. So when you yo-yo diet, you're messing with that, because you train your body to do better, do more with less, and then when you go up and live in plenty again, your body is in even more excess than it would have been. So that's why, if you aren't going to stick with something, if this isn't like a lifestyle for you, you shouldn't do it. Your changes need to be sustainable for you. And the thing is, at Grit Gym, our goal is always to create a baseline for you, the best, most sustainable diet without feeling deprived, miserable, or like it's unsustainable. So there's a sweet spot in there, and it's just about finding it. And it's going to be different for everybody, but we'll help you find yours. But what your body is willing to burn is also influenced by stress, sleep, hormones, and other factors. And there's another wildly personal thing. How much sleep you get, how stressful your job is, what stage of life you're in, and what your hormone function is like. These are all incredibly personal and play into how many calories you're going to burn. So the bad news is, because of this, diets do not work long term. The good news is that you don't ever have to diet again. Small, sustainable changes are what's going to equal a new lifestyle. And that's what I was talking about when mentioning the adaptive thermogenesis. Like, we want to create what's going to work for a lifetime for you. What the best diet for you to sustain forever and get off the yo-yoing. So a question that I think is really important to ask yourself: do you need to eat less, or do you need to eat better? Because people get those two confused a lot. Eating better is going to take care of a lot of your problems. There are times where eating less is going to become an issue, but more often than not, honestly, eating better food and putting better stuff in your body is going to make a huge difference. Most of the nutrition journals I'm looking at, honestly, aren't the people or these like wild overeaters that just like sit and like eat cookies all day on the couch. That's not what we're talking about. It's people who eat normal amounts of junk that's not fueling their body. So think about that. Do you need to eat less, or do you need to eat better? So let's talk a little bit about food journaling. You should have received the health journal as part of your nutrition course. There's a few things I want to touch on about nutrition journaling. The first thing is, this isn't a lifestyle change. I know we talk a lot about lifestyle changes in this course, but it's important to understand, I don't think food journaling is a lifestyle choice or something you'll do forever. At this point in my life, I do usually journal my food maybe 6 weeks a year, just to kind of check in and see where I'm at. Am I where I think I am? Am I estimating what's going in my face correctly, or am I crazy inaccurate? And that way I can adjust accordingly. I think it's a good check-in system. It's, like I said, this is a great way to find out where you are objectively, but it's not another nutrition crutch. It's not something I want you to feel like you're going to have to do forever. It's important to be honest in your journal. You're in a judge-free zone. Like, we want you to be comfortable to be yourself and to be honest. If you eat a piece of chocolate cake every night, let's say, I can't help you find a substitute for that chocolate cake if I don't even know it exists. Let us help you. That way we know your preferences. We know where your weaknesses are, what things, we can help you with. But if we need to be working with good information, and it's important for you to write it down and be honest with yourself too, because there is something about putting pen to paper and having to look at that journal and be at peace with yourself too. So there's a lot of power in that, but you have to be honest for this to work. And like I said, it's not forever, it's just for a little bit. So it doesn't need to be super detailed. Don't overcomplicate it. It's not, it's, you know, you have to be like, I ate tacos, which was half a cup of carnitas, half a teaspoon of this, 1 tablespoon of this. You can just write tacos with pico and guacamole, and like you can write down what you ate. You don't need to get so detailed that it becomes a time-consuming chore. It doesn't need to be that detailed. We can work with, I ate tacos and these are the toppings. So another thing I want to touch on in this this first course is hydration. So proper hydration is the foundation of health. It sounds super basic, but nothing else is going to matter if you do not take care of this step. Water is so important. It transports vitamins to the cells, it lubricates the joints, it delivers oxygen throughout the body, it aids in digestion, it regulates body temperature, and it helps produce hormones and neurotransmitters and many more things. The rule that we follow at Grit Gym is drink half your body weight ounces a day outside of meals and workouts. So no matter what your weight, cut that in half, turn that into ounces, and outside of meals and workouts, that's how much you drink. But we have to start with the basics and build up, because otherwise nothing we do. You could eat the most amazing diet in the world, but if you are dehydrated, you're going to have a really hard time getting the results you're looking for. And so that'll do it for the first one. This week's homework is going to be to begin using your health journal that you received and start writing down what you're eating, how much you're exercising, how much water you're drinking. Start tracking what goes in your face. And the second thing you need to do is you need to work on your hydration. And if you're doing it, that's great, but I need you to be aware, pay attention to what you're drinking, write it down this week. Drink half your body weight in ounces a day outside of meals and workouts. So you're going to journal and you're going to make sure you're drinking enough water. And then we will, of course, have a talk about it. We'll discuss. So feel free to ask any questions you have. If you're an online student, feel free to write in the messages. Let us know what you're thinking, what you need help with. We'll talk that way. If you are an in-person student, at our weekly meeting, we'll sit down and we'll kind of go over this. So bring any questions from today's presentation that you have, and I'll be happy to go into more detail. I'm so excited for you guys to take this journey. Please let us know if you have any questions. We're always here for you, and I will see you next week.